An IDC report suggests that worldwide brands invested over $50 billion in AI during 2020, and this number is expected to cross $110 billion by 2024. In the upcoming panel discussion, our panel of industry experts will discuss the India story. Are Indian brands ready to invest into AI and ML? I would like to invite Gopa Menon, Digital Head South Asia Mindshare, to moderate the discussion.
Hi all, we do have an esteemed panel of speakers to discuss and share their views on Indian brands who are ready to invest into AI and ML solutions. How are they using to meet their business objectives? Do brand invest have a head start? I'm really excited to hear the point of view and observations on this subject. I would like to introduce the panelists. Please say hi to all the fellow users.
Hi. Hi everyone, this is Vishal Gupta. I'm with PhonePe since almost start. I'm responsible for product management, design and customer experience in PhonePe. Very excited to be part of this panel.
Yeah, hi everyone, this is Sanjay. Sanjay Singal here from ITC Foods. I look after the dairy and beverages business. And I look forward to, talking to other panelists and the learnings from here. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Amit Sethiya. I head marketing for the SYSKA group, a name which is like a leading entity in the FMEG category, and really looking forward to a lot of insights from a lot of these industry experts about how do we leverage more out of AI and ML. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, this is Avadhoot here. I've been with Netcore for about 12 years now. Drive growth for Netcore across global markets, and been in the MarTech space now almost for 10 plus years, and working with a lot of B2C brands to see how they can get the best out of it.
Hello everyone, I'm Mukesh, working as a CTO for Paisabazaar.com, which is India's largest digital marketplace for lending products and free credit score platform. From last 5 years, we are trying to make personal finances easy, transparent, and convenient for our customers and people of India. We are also investing heavily in leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to make better and smart product for lending and for our customers.
Great. Welcome to the panel, guys. Before I start, just a context to the topic we are going to discuss. I think artificial intelligence is a very broad topic and is such a complicated and rapidly evolving technology that can sometimes be very difficult to envisage the practical applications in day-to-day life or it can have today. Some of the world's best brands have already been using AI and ML for several years and are reaping rewards in terms of profit, brand reputation, and visibility. Be it Amazon, which powered personalization shopping experience using MI as well ML and AI, and Nike, which is actually combining to deliver personalized services as well as improve product offering. Also, a report in IDC suggested that worldwide brands have invested roughly around 50-odd billion in 2020, and this amount will obviously cross around 110 billion by 2024. So this leads me to the first question, and this is open to all panelists, and I would like Sanjay to actually take this first. Do you think we have started embracing AI and ML for brands at large here in India? Can we say that this has become mainstream now?
Yeah, thanks, Gopa. I think it has pretty much become mainstream because, obviously, I think that marketing is moving from, let's say, purely looking at once in a year inciting, once in a year making a TV ad, and then running it for 1 year, and then making a new ad next year. So as consumer expectations have moved, I think it has, of course, it's put pressure on marketeers, but I think that there is a realization which is led, hopefully, honestly, by younger marketeers, let's say in a company like ours, in terms of the need to be to understand consumer insights and to use that, understand the behavior, and actually not only generate content basis that, but also deploy it at the right time at the right place. So, I was looking at some of the examples of, for example, I would like to share what in our business we have done. It might give some context to the entire thing. So I represent the foods business of ITC. And for example, using consumer insights, using behavioral insights, and let's say even insights in terms of shopping from first party data, a brand which is Ashirwad, which is a Rata brand for us, has actually been able to custom made using AI recipes for school children. So what recipes of Vata, whether it is a, let's say, a roti or a paratha or something, should I pitch to the mother is one example. On the other hand, we have a snack brand called Bingo, which is into potato snacks. And they have used that to actually customize deployment of messaging and content and generate content and optimize content visually, for example, in terms of at what time occasion should I pitch to what consumer, what message. So I think definitely it is there. In fact, it's a bit like a creeping phenomenon, because to most marketeers, what throws out is that large businesses are spending 400 crores, 500 crores on TV. But actually the real action is here, I would say, Gopa.
Interesting point, Sanjay. Vishal, your thoughts on brands embracing AI and ML, and is it mainstream now, and how are you actually looking at this?
See, if you look at the amount of data being generated, I don't think so that companies or brands have a choice to not basically start banking on systems to basically start deriving data intelligence. I think when the data was scarce, I think lots of data intelligence could be brought in through analytics and insights through digging the data. But when you're looking at the sea of the data, it is super important to kind of figure out what is the right way to look at the data. And typically, you're trying to find, needle in the hay then. And if you're trying to do that, you need to optimize your systems towards it. And that's where basically the system intelligence, right, start playing out. And eventually, if you do that, right, then if you have to scale it at the entire data population level, you have to kind of, build lots of, machine learning algorithms, and basically also kind of, go into that stage of self-learning algorithms at some point in time, because you cannot continue to kind of train the models. And some point in time, you need to go into the self-learning model, and that's where AI starts kicking in.
Amit, again, your thoughts in terms of how you are actually looking at both AI and ML, and how it's impacting your business objectives in this case.
So I think I have only two things to share when it comes, about AI and ML. And to be very honest and candid about it, I think there has been this whole rat race of, somehow using AI and ML just because everybody is doing. I think that's something that I don't agree to professionally, because I think each business model and each category has its own very unique dynamics and challenges that goes out. So I think that's where I come from. That for me, I think it's not so much mainstream, because it's a diversified brand, SYSKA brand, and while it is known for LED solutions, it is also into so many other categories: personal care appliances and wires and cables and fans and so on and so forth. So I think each category brings its own sort of challenges, back to the organization. That's one. And I completely agree with what Vishal spoke about. I guess it's all about agility. And I think in today's environment, whether you are a marketeer or maybe a finance chap or a production expert, I think it's all about agility today. So I think definitely AI and ML, has started bringing in that particular aspect, which has, I think, brought in a lot of confidence and conviction in whatever we are doing as a business today.
Good point, Amit. Mukesh, your thoughts in terms of how, again, do you have a point of view to what Amit said? It's not become mainstream and it's a rat race, basically. Again, your thoughts on this?
Well, thanks a lot, Gopa, for the question. I slightly contradict with Amit on this, because I think it's again, and then slightly agree with Vishal, because it again, you need to have a problem and then you try to find a solution, right? You can't apply a solution to all the problems. So for us, AI and machine learning and data, which is the backbone. So data is important because we get a lot of data, and in order to make a sense out of this data, you would need a big data technologies, and you can't put man everywhere. You would need some automation. You would need to create new models, you need new insights. For example, if you see the way we do how to match a right product for a right consumer, this can be used using the data and machine learning, right? Identifying the credit risks and possible NPAs beforehand, or doing underwriting is again can be very much automated using data and machine learning. Payments, fraud detection, fraud risk and control. Like we have a traditional model of fraud detection and prevention units, but you can very well automate those stuff, and you can add efficiency into it when you have a machine learning through which you can do see like if there are anomalies into the system, and you need not to wait for a person to scan everything and then come to a solution, like, or come to a finding. Your system can automatically detect a particular anomalies or a outlier, and then they can raise an right alarm to the right audience. So I think it is a AI, machine learning, data, big data it has become an integral part for the digital ecosystem, and it'll I can see like it will go further onwards and going forward. And look, somewhere I agree with Amit in terms of, at least you should not implement AI and ML just for the sake of implementing it. You first need to identify your problems very clearly. For example, for us, because we are at custodians of data for consumer, for customers, so we have a lot of data, and if I need to pitch a right product to my customers, then I can't do it manually. I have to do it using smart data algorithms and smart matching algorithms, and then only I can do then only I can pitch a right product. On top of it, if you see lending now, because of a COVID, this digitization has happened, and the end-to-end digital lending involves a lot of online activities, for example, video KYC, online document sharing and all. Now, in that case, it is very imperative and important for us to build or to deploy a solution through which we can identify like these are the genuine documents, not forged, this is a genuine video and all. So that's why I said, like, for fintech, at least I can talk from a BFSI point of view. It is AI is AI, ML and data is adding a lot of values, and it's a way forward for us.
Thank you, Mukesh. I think a good point. Avadhoot, you coming from a tech background, I'm happy to again interested to look at hear your views on AI and ML in terms of how it has become mainstream. Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, and I have a slightly mixed opinion, and looking at it purely from a marketing lens, right? I think brands surely have kind of started adopting it. But they're still yet to kind of see concrete outcomes come from it, which are directly impacting business metrics. There are of course e-commerce and digital first brands who, surely have an edge where you, like you mentioned, you would see most of the websites these days have Amazon-like recommendations, which are getting powered through some or the other machine learning algos. So, but I think the whole point is this whole adoption, acceptance, and outcome is lot better when brands are open towards using third-party platforms and the expertise that they bring onto the table, than trying to do everything in-house. And I think which is what is yet happening in a market like India. Like if you compare this to markets like US, Europe. Almost 80% of the brands rely on external platforms to bring in that needed depth, and expertise on board. It's very much like, it's a very good comparative to, logistics, right? In case of e-commerce, like there are so many external logistics platforms, which e-commerce brands are now relying on, just because logistics has its own depth and expertise that needs to come on board. So I don't think brands should try and build everything in-house. And that's been the mindset in the Indian environment, that we'll just hire a bunch of data science guys and they'll build stuff for us. I think they should be slightly more open-minded to get external platforms in and help them kind of, get onto that journey of adopting, not just adopting AI ML, but also seeing the real outcomes from it, and we'll talk about it maybe in the coming questions.
Thank you, Avadhoot, for your opening comments. But that leads me to the next question, and good segue for me again to reach out to again Sanjay. do you first agree about the in-housing comment of Avadhoot? That's one. And second thing is, what are the apprehensions of brand investing into AI and ML? And what do you think it will take to change the mindset for brands to start adapting into both AI and ML solutions?
Okay, so I think I agree that basically you have to develop. I mean, it is. I want to add to that point. It's not only having data scientists in the organization. I mean, it is also that every marketing person should actually believe in it, because ultimately the budgets lie with marketing, the consumer insights lie with marketing, and unless marketing believes in it, owns it, and actually drives the data scientists or the technical people to actually deploy these solutions, I don't think it will work. Or it will work rather, let me say, suboptimally. Because your communication, your creatives, your entire spiel will then not be based on real consumer insight. That will just be, let's say, algorithms running your marketing campaigns, which we know doesn't have the power of human insight or human feelings. So I'm saying, coming to your concerns point, I'm saying that there's obviously this big brother phenomenon in the mind of marketeers that am I misusing data? Whether it is in first party. So I think that is one thing which is more of a ingrained human thing, given all the noise happening globally on how big tech is using misusing data and actually being everywhere. I think the second part obviously is that if you look at a large company like ours, which may have, let's say, a 60-70 member marketing team, it is that who goes first. Because you may have loads of agencies and partners come and present global stock Indian studies. But the reality is that there is something in Hindi, there is a saying called Bher Chal. Okay, so if there is a good case study happening in an organization like ours, or on the other side to your spectators there, viewers, I think good practices, when they are shown to lead to consumer or it's a business results, they become infectious. So I think that one thing I've seen is that, be it AI or ML, or let's say other new things on digital in our organization at least, if there is one or two brand teams which actually take the initiative, I think then people see the success and they get, let us say, enthused by it. And the third obviously is investment. But I would say that whatever I have understood from our deployment of AI or ML is that it doesn't require investment. The problem is ulta to man. It is easy, as I started out my first part when I said, it is easy to make one TVC and then spend 5, 10, 15, 20 crores behind it. It is much more difficult and engaging and takes much more time to develop a campaign using data and marrying it with your insights and actually running an AI/ML campaign, which is not a one-off campaign, but a consistent, let's say, initiative from a brand.
I agree with you, Sanjay. I think it's a combination of all. Vishal, again, your thoughts in terms of what Sanjay elaborated on in terms of the apprehensions of brand before investing into AI and ML, and what do you think is the mindset change required to adapt to these solutions?
See, typically we breed data. Honestly speaking, if you ask me, I think we generate more than 2 billion plus events every day.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about generating that kind of data, I don't think so that we have a choice not to look at the data. So I think we belong to probably definitely more leading the pack than basically being on the offensive side. So I can tell you what makes us basically believe in it, right? And maybe that can probably help allay the concerns on people who are on the other side of it. Typically, when you're generating these many data events, and basically, if you want to kind of be super efficient on, as Mukesh said, KYC, or as Sanjay said, based on your marketing campaigns, or Avadhoot said, in terms of your overall reach and conversions, it is super important to kind of look at all the problem statements at hand and then bring in the data intelligence to it. Now, data intelligence is coming in only if you are looking at the right kind of dimensions, and there's lots of learning curve over there. Now, typically in a traditional industry where basically, let's call it pre-AI, pre-ML era, it used to be lots of data crunching, right? And honestly speaking, unless until you are like superhuman to be able to connect lots of dots, right? It is almost impossible to look at, some deep insight, which is actually very, very easily visible. If you're trying to probably look at, certain algorithms and basically look at outliers and basically clusters of the data. So typically, whenever you do those kind of this thing, the data patterns start showing you certain signs and symptoms of, a positive conversion or a negative conversion. If you think from a fraud risk analysis, we need to prevent lots of fraud, and I think probably we are one of the best in the industry right now in order to do that. You identify that there are lots of clusters where you can clearly identify that here is the basically risk where you'll have to deal it differently than the regular this thing, and you need to design your flows according to that. If I go towards marketing or the conversion or in terms of the targeting, based on your consumer behavior, if you're trying to distribute BFSI and basically change how people are dealing with their money, it is super important to us in terms of how we're talking to a fully aware customer vis-a-vis a customer who's very, very early to the stage or very, very apprehensive about even starting their BFSI journey. Now, unless until you understand those cohorts, and unless and until you basically apply the right kind of intelligence on those layers, it is almost impossible to do it the right way. And then basically what Sanjay called out, you will end up basically doing lots of marketing dollars, literally in a very, very dumb way, for a lack of better word, right? Where basically your conversions are not translating to the ROI what you're kind of deploying over there. So it is, I think, imperative, very, very this thing, that data is super critical. And if you're operating at a scale the way we are operating, I don't think so that we can think of basically not building it in-house. I think Avadhoot made a point where basically I think people need to rely, and I think completely game for ecosystem play. Wherever there are right tools and right things are available, people should use. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. But at the same point in time, we need to realize and appreciate the fact that how many people or how many tools which are there which can handle 2.5 billion data points a day, right? And if you have to, and again, you also need to understand that data intelligence is not a specific approach. It is a way of living. If you think about it, it has to be embedded into everything you do. And if that has to happen, then your data intelligence systems should be part of your entire architecture or the entire ecosystem, whatever you're building.
Thank you, Vishal, on a very interesting take on in terms of how you actually look at both AI and ML in your day-to-day work scenario. Amit, you are also in an industry which is actually having IoT disruption happening, and obviously using AI and ML is becoming mainstream, at least globally as well. What are your thoughts in terms of both from an apprehension point of view, what is actually holding you back, or what's your concern actually adapting to AI and ML solutions, and what do you think that what will enable you to actually change those mindsets?
So, Gopa, I think as we all discussed that, the application of the technology is completely, basis what the kind of category is or what is the business model. It's very easy for a consumer tech brand, to embrace the technology easy, because broadly the digital footprint is, there for them to chew and make something better out of it. But imagine a brand which is fundamentally in the offline mode, and it is run with the help of your distribution model, right? A lot of these retailers and distributors and super stockists across the length and breadth of the country. I'm like, they're in huge numbers, right? So today, if you want to buy LED, eventually you will go to an electrical shop or a hardware shop to buy the bulb, right? And at the very counter, the only conversation is about that product which is given to you. You pay for the product and you come back. I think there is no digital footprint that is fundamentally generated in this entire process. So I think for us, as you rightly mentioned, we create a lot of digital footprints only when the product is IoTized, because that's when the product starts talking to my app. I have a lot of these evolved customers who are coming to my D2C platform to buy these, a bit premium products, I would say, because they are kind of comparatively costly, right? So I think that part is taken care of, because then I have a data. We spoke about big data, right? So that is where the data is coming in, right, in the system. Now, when you look at certain initiatives that we have taken to ensure that can we generate certain digital footprints even from the offline, network as well. So I think a couple of things that we have done is basically, your warranty registration programs, extension of your warranty, support to the customers. In fact, we have, neuro tagging technology in place, which actually helps the customer to first of all understand whether the product is actually genuine and authentic also or not, or it is a copied product. So I think these are some of the initiatives which really, generate the lot of whatever required digital footprint, and which goes back into the system and help, in fact, AI and ML to perform what they're supposed to do. So I think this is how we have, started our journey of ensuring that, we even start, reaping the benefit of the technological aspects now.
Great, Amit. Mukesh, again, your platform, you are also dealing with lots of data day in, day out again, and I think you might be using advanced ML as well as AI learnings as well. So your thoughts in terms of, I think in your case also, it will be more of why MI and AL works for you than apprehension. But again, your thoughts, if there are any apprehensions, and how to change those mindsets.
Well, look, there are no apprehension at all. And I completely agree with Vishal. Since we are accumulating so much of a data, it's a customer events, a lot of data, we are a heterogeneous set of data. And in order to make sense out of that data is data engineering, artificial intelligence, machine learning is the way forward. But of course, just to answer and just to bring this point out, AI ML has its own challenges, right? AI ML is a very niche technology and so much in demand, it requires a different skill set. And that particular skill set is very costly. It requires a large amount of CPU, which requires GPUs, basically high intensive graphic processing units, which is again, infrastructure is very costly. So before the word of cautions are like, before you try to implement an AI or ML or a data-driven solution, we first need to have a problem in our head very clear. Like, what do we want to achieve from this particular exercise? And why do we want to apply this particular solution? Like, we have a lot of customer data, but in terms of calling data, a lot of inbound queries we get from customers. Now we have that voice data. Now I can do a sentiment analysis on top of that voice data. I can, in fact, create an NLP based model, which doesn't require a human at the end of the inbound call center, right? But is this a real problem? If this is a real problem for me, then of course it makes sense it makes sense for me to invest into these NLP or a speech to text or a text to speech kind of a technology. But yeah, if it is not a big pain for me, then it doesn't make sense. Whereas when customer is on my journey, or as Sanjay mentioned, the marketing activities where you have to identify, like, you are communicating the right kind of a product to the right customer, you are identifying the channel propensity for a customer, you are doing the right segmentation, you are doing the behavioral segmentation, you are building a contextual journeys or a context aware journeys when customer is coming back to your platform. Then of course, look, as Vishal mentioned, like before AI ML era, it used to be like all conditions, if else, all those manual activities used to happen. But that's not a scalable model, because when you have a lot of product onboards, like you do entire bouquet of products, right? Lending, cards, and investment and all, then you need to see a holistic view for the customer. And that's where you need to create a graph for a customer, or a customer 360, whatever you call it. Right? And then only you can build a contextual or a smart journeys. And for that, you need to do a lot of data churning. You need to do a lot of machine learning. So that makes sense for us in order to invest. But yes, as I said, the decision has to be taken decisively, and we need to have a ROI. Always need to keep ROI in mind before we implement, or before we try to implement these kind of technologies.
Great. Avadhoot, you might be again talking to lots of customers in the market. And again, I think would love to actually hear your views in terms of the apprehension that you encounter with brands. One might be one in housing and data story, but other than that, what are the apprehensions that you encounter when you're actually reaching out to customers?
Yeah, and some of these apprehensions, more than brands, it's the marketers, right, who are taking the decisions finally on behalf of the brands. I think Earlier, some of these were there where, will AI really replace what I'm doing? Will it take away jobs that I'm today doing, right? Those were apprehensions there maybe a few years back, and maybe somewhere related to complexity of implementing it. Does it increase dependency on tech teams? Like Amit spoke about, today is a world of agility. We don't want to increase dependencies on cross teams, because we all know how that ends up happening. So I think those were few apprehensions, some years back, but I think they've completely gone away. So I think marketers clearly started looking at AI more as their friend than a foe, because it's actually helping them achieve their goals, and the great good part is some low code platforms that provide these solutions with very less dependency on tech teams have actually helped take these apprehensions away. Where you don't really have to, rely so heavily on tech, and business guys, marketers can actually have direct access to some of these platforms, actually have helped, reduce the apprehensions out there in the market. So, yeah.
That's great. I think it's becoming more accessible for marketers at large. I think that's a great story. Sanjay, again, coming back, the backbone of any successful AI and ML experience and solution is data and tech. And in this digital age, everybody's saying, and I think we believe that as well, marketers cannot win without mastering both data, analytics, and automation. So what's your data tech story at ITC, and how do you see this evolving, and what are your future roadmap in terms of tech transformation for your brands?
Sure. So I think I would empathize with Amit when he said that Amit is at least selling maybe, I don't know, Amit, 100 rupee bulb, a bulb of 100 rupees, where smart bulbs are 1,000 rupees, but we are selling 5 rupees ka biscuit and 10 rupees ka noodle. So you can better guess how much information a customer will give me, unlike a BFSI industry. So having said that, I'm saying that, we do a lot of activations. We also, during pandemic last year, we started something called ITC eStore, which actually is delivering D2C platform for us, for the entire team. So those sort of platforms are being used to actually generate first party data, and then to, of course, scrub it and let's say, enrich it in a manner. We also saw that historically we had lots of consumer data, but that was just demographics. So how do you try to build in through cloning or so other devices? How do you actually build in some psychographics there? So I think we are the second now, we're the second FMCG company to actually have created a data hub now. So that has been created across, I think, our FMCG business. But I think we have a long way to go. So that is being used for campaign generation. It's being used sometimes for inciting also. It's being used also for remarketing, as you can imagine. So it's increasing, but I think we have a way to go, because ultimately, as I mentioned, that FMCG is not like BFSI or IT or tech or let's say telecom, where you can get that. And I think there one of the panelists talked about, and that is where I think the art and science of marketing comes, right? Because marketing is science, but marketing is also art. How can you use limited data that you have to generate insights and then deploy content and campaigns on that? I think is the art part.
Great, Sanjay. Vishal, you are again, and we have talked about in terms of you're sitting on huge pile of data and you keep on actually handling this data day in, day out. And you are in a separate journey in that sense. So what is your roadmap in mind for entire tech transformation for your brands in terms of how you see your data and tech or MIAL solution evolving over a period of time?
See, typically, again, at PhonePe, we strongly believe in, growing the market rather than fighting over the existing pie. I think if you're a market leader in a particular segment, I think onus is on you to actually grow the market. Broadly, I think very, very excited about where we are at this stage, and very, very excited about in terms of what role data will play from here onwards to kind of, change the numbers. Whenever you talk about BFSI industry, you take anything, be it investments or insurance or anything, lending, and you look at, hey, India is, way more underpenetrated than anywhere it is. If you look at the crux of it, right, the multiple challenges have been Of course, India is a very, very heterogeneous country, right? It's a very deep country in terms of the reach. Has to, if you talk about, T2 and T3 and below, there's a very, very deep reach which is required. And then basically you need to be able to figure out what is needed, right? What is the right product for that individual? That is super important. Today, because of I think, if you think about the cost barriers, people have not been able to reach out. Now, as a digital platforms, we have a choice to kind of at least solve for the cost barrier in terms of the reach. But that is not enough, right? Reach is not enough. You need to be able to tailor the product or basically handhold the customers to be able to go past those mental hurdles of, oh, what happens if I do this, or whether I need this or not. So it is a combination of solving for education. It is a combination of solving for awareness. It's a combination of solving for, how to do it and why to do it. I believe that data will play a huge role for us as we kind of, go and penetrate into deeper markets and basically take the basically, let's say, for example, insurance coverage to everybody who's in need. In fact, if you think about people who need the insurance most, don't even understand the need of insurance or don't even basically invest into insurance. So far, whatever it has been sold in a offline channel has been commission-driven models, right? Where basically people are trying to sell what making more money for me vis-a-vis what is right product for the customer. I think we are taking a very strong stance on that, saying that, hey, we are always going to be customer first, and we are going to sell the right product to you, what you need, and what right amount of coverage, what you need in terms of insurance or protection for that matter. Similar thing goes for if you think about investments, right? What is the right kind of investments? Earlier, if you think about people who think that, hey, I can invest only, right, if I have, let's say, for example, few thousands of disposable income. Fact of the matter is that you can invest as low as 100 rupees a month, right? Today, lots of people, if you think about, who are like literally in the service class, right? The drivers and the maids and security guards of all, actually, they can probably have a disposable income of 200, 300, 500 rupees, and they can start saving it for the rainy day or start saving it for their future. They don't do any of those because they don't know how to, and they have not been exposed to those products. I think if you understand your customer better, and if you can make the product tailor-made, you can change the world, right? And honestly speaking, same goes for credit. Today, everybody is giving credit to people who don't need credit, right? Yeah. Probably all of you are getting like multiple credit cards and multiple phones, right? Phone calls to say that, hey, take credit. But yes, I don't need credit. People who need credit, people are not willing to underwrite them because it's too risky, right? And at the end of the day, yes, it is, people are doing that business to make profit. Now, how do you kind of, create out that intelligence and that efficiency at scale? And that's where data intelligence will play out in a very, very big way. Very, very excited about where we are and what all we can do at the overall ecosystem level. And super excited in terms of what are the number of various partnerships we can force together, right? Be it with brands like, SYSKA and ITC, or be it with, banks and other places.
Great. Amit, your roadmap, how you see you actually adapting to both AI and ML solutions, and what's your data story? While you've alluded that obviously it's tough to get digital data footprint for most of your customers, but I'm sure you are actually planning to actually get some of the details in.
So basically, see, whatever you do or whatever you say, say example for FMEG, brand like SYSKA, at the core of it, there is an awesome product, because that is ultimately what is being bought by the customers. So it's that amazing product which needs to be also available at the right point in time to the customers, whether they are offline or online. And hence it needs to be evaluated in terms of your production planning, your logistics, your marketing, and eventually conversion, right? So I think if that's the way I look at, this entire gamut of technologies that we are discussing today, fundamentally, I have two strong opinions and I would say beliefs as well. That one is that, we need to really have a very justified, timeline for whatever we are getting into right now. See, because what happens, suddenly when, digital angle came to marketing, people started talking ROI, that's the only thing to look at marketing, right? Bas abhi chahiye hai, abhi karna hai, kab hone wala hai. I think suddenly we became very transactional in the conversation, right? I think so somewhere it is important to have the justified amount of timelines for each and every project, because it's a long journey, as a lot of panelists mentioned, right? It's not like you press a button and it is done. No, that's one. Secondly, and I believe into this a lot more, that application or adoption of AI and ML is not only a marketeer's job. While we are talking as marketeers today, it's, I think, the entire commitment given by the organization. See what happens, like today, if you only become the flag bearer of AI and ML in the organization, for others it becomes like, okay, that's not my job, wo marketing wala kar lega. I think that's where the bigger mindset needs to be addressed, because it is a commitment from everybody in that organization towards the brand's performance. So I think these are some of the things that I really wanted to put across in this discussion.
Thanks, Amit. Mukesh, again, your thoughts in terms of your roadmap and how are you seeing your data and ML tech story coming together in future?
Sure. So if you see, look, we have already launched our digital stack, which is basically trying to do the entire lending end-to-end paperless in a digital fashion. Now, subsequently, what we are aiming, or we have in fact launched, are neo lending products where we are trying to get into more of a co-creation along with the lending institutions, partners, where we are co-creating, we are taking risk, we are trying to underwrite in order to build a custom tailor-made product for the custom need of our Paisabazaar's customers, right? So AI ML data is an integral part for us, and we will keep using that. We will keep leveraging it for our customers, because we have clearly seen like the value it is adding to my customers is uncomparable. Be it is marketing, I need not to do a brute force marketing. I need not to call my customers many a times, and I can clearly match the right product to the right customer, right? Instead of throwing everything on his face, like select. There are a lot of things. For example, if you say investment, a lot of instruments are there in investment, right? Similarly, in insurance, a lot of things, a lot of different partners are there. A lot of product are there even in insurance. Similarly, in lending and credit cards and debit cards. So eventually, what we are trying to solve, we speak on behalf of a customer, right? And since we are a web aggregator and a marketplace, it is onus and our responsibility to build a great, or to recommend at least a great product to customer. If they are available, if they are not available into the market, then we are trying to work closely with our partners to build product which is best suited for our customer needs. So of course, AI ML is a big, and data is a big game for us going forward.
Great. That brings me to the perennial question of ROI. And Avadhoot, I would want you to actually first go with this. How should brand look at ROI while they're investing in AI and ML solutions, and what should be the measurement for success?
ROI, I think surely 2-3 areas that could be looked at from an ROI standpoint. One very clearly is efficiency. I think it brings in a lot of efficiency amongst marketing product teams who are today spending a lot of time in different places, right? Like, just to give a few examples, we have our AI engine Raman, which essentially helps brands or marketers actually derive insights from analytics. So you don't have to really sit and look at every dashboard, or let's say sit and look at tens of analytics platforms. You just need to look at one place where you're essentially getting all the insights, which says your revenue possibly is down by 20% on 10th of December. And it will also try and give you possible reasons why this would have happened. It could be maybe some particular campaign is not performing, maybe some of your acquisition campaign is not really working like it should, or your cost of acquisition on Facebook has gone up, or so on and so forth, right? So I think I think efficiency is one big area where it has direct impact. Second way to kind of measure the ROI is I think direct impact on business metrics, like things like conversion, things like retention, and there are various ways to again see how it gets impacted. Like, we today power recommendations for a lot of brands like Crocs, Veramoda only, and we actually do these product recommendations on their website or app. And there is a direct impact of increase in conversions by about 10 to 15%. So I think direct business metric impact is another great way to do it. And similar examples for that could be we predicting things that will happen in the future. Like you're actually predicting users who are going to churn from your mobile app, which is very important for, let's say, someone like a PhonePe or Policy Bazaar or so on, right? And then being able to hold those users back and retain them back onto your app, or predicting users who are possibly going to purchase in the next month, which is very important for ITC, let's say in case of grocery, right, where these are users who are going to purchase next week, and making sure that they purchase with you is important because they might have other grocery apps parallelly, which they are already kind of using. So I think direct impact on business matrix is I would say the second one. And third one could also be impact on top of the funnel matrix, like getting more attention, getting more engagement. So let's say the notification you send has to be super personalized to what they've been engaging on, and possibly is optimized by content that really works. So I think better engagement, attention, and reduction of bounce rates on your site, and so on and so forth. So I think those would be three good ways to measure if it's really working for you or not.
Great. Sanjay, are you mapping, what do you map as success for both investment while you've invested in both AI and ML solutions? What is the ROI for you, and what are you actually measuring?
So I think taking up from what Avadhoot was saying, I'm saying that first thing is that what is the ROI on TV communication? So, I mean, certainly new stuff like this has to be invested in with a leap of faith. Yeah. You can't just request a child before it is even born to actually start giving you ROI. However, I'm saying ultimately we're running a commercial organization, and definitely each campaign is assessed from, and in our case, it is not unlike BFSI. It is not that I run an AI campaign, I expect the revenue generation to happen. Though we are now running campaigns, we are giving a buy now, a link to, let's say, an e-com platform. So certainly there are ways to do that. But see, there are many applications of AI stroke ML where I can't attribute let's say, a direct revenue to it. Let me give you an example. Yes, a campaign for a repurchase or a new launch, I can do that. But we are using AI, for example, where we have crawlers, which are actually trying to figure out if they are, let us say, lookalikes or fake brands operating for Yippee Noodle or Ashirwad Atta. Now, I can't put a value to it. Yeah. Similarly, I mean, we go to, let's say, 4 million outlets every week to service our FMCG customers. Now, there, the AI, power of AI is being used by the distributor salesman to actually use his handheld device to scan the shelf and figure out how much facings we had versus the competition had, which is powering a back-end engine. So some things which are more revenue-led, you can generate a ROI. Some have a, let's say, more pernicious link to the ROI. Definitely there is a return happening, which is why ultimately so many people are investing behind it. But I would not like to say a number, because I'm saying that the field is moving ahead. And I think there are much more things we can do before we come to actual return from a company perspective.
Great. It's heartening to know that you're willing to actually invest and see how things are, and from a technology, not looking at just ROI. Vishal, your measure for success in what you guys do, and what do you think brands should look at from an ROI perspective?
Sure, I'll give you 2 or 3 different answers, honestly speaking, on this particular thing, because it's a very diverse problem statement, right, in terms of how to measure ROI. Honestly speaking, in my mind, AI and ML is how, right? So what you're doing towards does not change. So your business metrics, if they are growing, I think that's definitely very clear ROI, right? The second one, if you think about in terms of traditional industries, specifically if I talk about, Sanjay and Amit, this thing, and they're clearly calling out the difference between a digital first product versus a traditional successful large business, right, which is spread out like across this thing. I think they are in the investment phase where they have to invest a lot, to be able to basically bring in digital footprint to the best possible level. Now, the interesting part, if you think about, is that if you look at the macro parameters, right, how the things are changing in this thing. Right now, we have like around 23 million merchants, which we have kind of acquired. At some point in time, right, we are in the process of basically digitizing those merchants. So more and more digital data will start flowing in. And as more and more digital data starts flowing in, more and more collaboration can happen, right, using those data parameters. And basically, the data intelligence will start playing out in the long run for sure. And third one, I think it eventually boils down to efficiency, as simple as that, right? That, hey, whatever you're doing, are you able to do? And efficiency can be economies of scale also. Are you able to do it at scale, right? Or efficiencies can also be basically doing it much more sharply, right? So if you were to ask me like Uber answer gun on my head, I'll measure ROI success, the data success from us being able to change the BFSI spectrum of the country, as simple as that, right? We being able to sell insurance to the nooks and the corners of the country, right? Lend them and then basically grow the entire ecosystem. I think if we can do that, I think that will what I'll personally feel it will be a great success for us.
Great. Since we are running out of time, I think one last question, and again for all, and I will want to start with Amit. Future gazing, very difficult to obviously predict future, particularly when we're talking about ML and AI. What do you think will happen next 2-3 years in terms of trends? How you see this space evolving or the solutions evolving?
So I think I can clearly see that, while AI and ML has already been accepted and adopted, by a lot many brands across various categories, I think future will bring in a lot of augmented intelligence as well going ahead. Because in my category, a lot of things are going to shape up, the way we market the brands. Example, voice search, smart wearables. And I think Uber personalization has been the epicenter of a lot many conversations. So I think these are some of those key areas where I see the genesis of AI and ML, becoming more sharper actually.
Great. Mukesh, your thinking cap on future gazing next 3 years. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I personally think, look, a lot of scope in NLP, specifically natural language processing, speech to text, text to speech, the way we have a conversation. So similarly, conversational AI and NLP is something we should all gaze on. Second one is a cyber security, especially fraud prevention, cyber security, because look, we have seen, right, cyber security is a big risk nowadays, because now data, we are, as a company of our stature, is collecting a lot of data. PhonePe is collecting a lot of data. In fact, all the new age digital companies are collecting a lot of data. So it's a big responsibility and onus and on us to protect that data. And there are traditional ways of protecting those data, but you need to do a lot more smart prevention mechanism and detection mechanism. So cybersecurity, I can see, is something which will further grow using AI and ML. In terms of prevention, look, people are already using ML and AI in terms of attacking and breaching, but in terms of prevention, it'll add a lot of value. Hyper automation is again something which since market, if you see the manufacturing units and all, I can clearly see robotic process automation or other business process automation is something which will happen going forward. So yeah, I can see these 3-4 things. There are a lot of other things which will also happen using AI and ML, but I can see clearly these 3-4 things which will yield a lot of value to our lives and the society.
Great. Avadhoot, your 3 top trends for the next 2-3 years?
Yeah, I think one of them very clearly is more depth in insight-led analytics. So I think what I spoke about, right? You getting insights at one single place. That is something that is growing, and I think marketers want to save on time and make sure they get everything at one place. So I think insight-led analytics, where they don't look at many dashboards, just look at one place. So I think that's one clear trend. Second one I would say is this whole concept or role of citizen data scientists, where the marketers essentially start getting direct access to models getting democratized, and domain experts have can directly start using some of these models themselves without dependency on tech teams, so which I think so just getting more accessibility to it will just get a lot more adoption and outcome out of it. And the third, which is the most important one, is this whole autonomous decisioning, right? The whole GPT-3 evolution and things on top of it is really going to blow up the adoption for this, like simple use cases, right? Like phone calls being answered and responded by a AI algo. He understands the questions being asked by the person on the other side and actually answers them very smoothly. Or driverless cars or robots in manufacturing industries, algos being used for trading. I think some of these are already being done, but I think that's essentially where we're heading. And if I just connect that to marketing, you can connect it in a way where campaigns get optimized on their own. Like let's say PhonePe doing things on their app. I'm sure they do a lot of A/B testing on the app. Possibly the AI engine does all of it themselves. Like I see maybe pay bills at the top, someone else will see insurance at the top. It just sees what gets better conversions and turns that on for that particular user. Same stands true for campaigns, triggered messages. Everything runs on an auto mode. Is essentially where we are heading. So I think those are top 3 trends.
Cool. Sanjay, your top 3 trends to just end this panel.
I will just talk about one, which I'm very excited by. I'm not saying that because of the flavor of the season. I think that we will see in the future a marriage of AI ML and the metaverse. And that is going to be damn interesting, because ultimately, whether we are selling a food product or a bulb or an insurance policy, we are trying to either improve our consumers or improve their life. And obviously, I'm saying that if you marry your own business insights or brand insights on what does the consumer want, and actually bring an avatar of them into metaverse, I think that will be a killer thing. A start has been made yesterday. I think some of you may have seen what Cadbury's done with 5-star. So, I think these are very, very interesting areas, because I'm saying that ultimately we all have there is a brand and there is a vision of the brand. And how do you really take that? So I'm personally excited about how do you use the insights or the data capabilities of AI to actually take on the next league, which is really the metaverse going further. It will be futuristic, it's not something will come tomorrow. I think it will come, and there will be some leading edge consumers, maybe the youngsters, or maybe young brand managers who will make it.
Definitely futuristic, but I think interesting times to come. Vishal, just to round off your top 3 trends, what you see, how things would evolve and shape next 2-3 years.
I think a lot will change, but if I have to kind of segment them into top 3 things, I think one of the most important aspect, and we are very strong advocate of data privacy, how the data privacy has been dealt with. You already see lots of policies being formed. End of the day, it's consumer data, and consumers should be in the control of the data. That is kind of non-negotiable and must be solved for. That is going to be one important change. You'll see more and more control being given to the consumer rightfully. The second one, basically, if you look at the computing power of devices increasing, right? If I remember my first laptop spec, right? My probably mobile phone is probably 10 times stronger than that, right? So the computing power, I think the kind of algorithms what you're running before, right? You couldn't have even thought of, a couple of decades ago. Technology is growing leaps and bounds, which means basically if you have computing power in your hand or your IoT devices, right, for that matter, lots of AI and ML actually will happen on the client side, which means data doesn't leave the owner, right? You don't need to get that data. You're not violating the data privacy, but being able to still bring in lots of data intelligence by deploying those models onto those devices. So that's going to be the second one, which is going to be very interesting. The third one, I still believe that we are very, very early stage of the data intelligence. I think with consumer consent, if you start connecting the dots and start playing it out across the journey, across the portfolio, across the usage and the needs, consumer will truly be the king in that particular sense, where basically consumer will be able to define out and get where they want a personalized experience and get anonymized experience wherever they want anonymized experience.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Vishal. And thank you, guys. I think we're pretty much done.
Thank you everyone for a detailed and informative discussion. Dear viewers, pick the learnings from the session and share on social media with your friends using the hashtag ET Martech Asia.